Welcome to Microsoft Dynamics CRM 2013 SDK New Features. My name is Ishita Kunwar and I will be presenting today's session on Client API Enhancements. We're going to be discussing about some new methods that have been added into the public SDK for CRM 2013. The addition of these methods also helps with rendering business logic on certain devices in CRM 2013, as well as the experience for CRM for tablets. Let's take a look at a diagram that summarizes several different functions that have been introduced in the API. Let's talk about some of the methods that are listed in this diagram that are being introduced in CRM 2013. So underneath the context properties, we are now providing a getClient and a getClientState method. You can use these two methods to determine which client is being used and whether the client is connected to the server. So getClient specifically can return values of three types. So it will either tell you that the script is executing on the web client, the Outlook client, or the mobile client. Similarly, the getClientState can indicate the state of your client in terms of offline or online status. The third method that you do see listed is specifically the getUsername method, and what this will allow you to do is simply return the name of the current user who is executing the script. Two things to keep in mind are that because now we're introducing client.getClient instead, wherein you can return the state of the client, is Outlook client and is Outlook online methods that were available in the past will become deprecated. So they will continue to work, but our recommendation is use the getClient and the getClientState methods instead. Two interrelated methods that you will see underneath the data object, so the xrm.page.data. Underneath that, we have four new methods that are defined. So the refresh and the save method are somewhat interrelated. They're both asynchronous. So in the case of the refresh method, it would allow you to asynchronously refresh all the data on your form without reloading the page. Additionally, it would allow you to set some callback functions depending on whether an error is returned or not. For the save function, that is asynchronous as well, and it provides you the option to set callback functions, which will essentially be executed after the save operation is complete. You also would see a getIsValid method listed. So this is a somewhat generic method that allows you to force a validation check for the data in the form, and the return type for this would simply be Boolean. Also, you can set the form dirty now, so that's the other function that is available, wherein it would allow you to basically set value to show whether the data on the form has been changed since the last save. The return type on that one is going to be Boolean, so basically if the form returns true, that is indicative of the fact that the data on the form has not changed since the last save. Otherwise, we return false. Moving on, let's talk about the xrm.page.data.entity member. So underneath that, we have one particular method that is being introduced, and this is called the getPrimaryAttributeValue. As would be easy to guess, this one would basically allow you to return a string for the value of the primary attribute of the entity. And as you know, each entity always has a string attribute that is designated as its primary name attribute. So we would essentially return the value of this attribute when this function is invoked. Two methods that are being introduced underneath the xrm.page.ui properties are the setFormNotification and the clearFormNotification. So the idea behind these methods is that now you can use these methods to set particular form notifications. So the notifications would be displayed form level, and you can display any number of notifications and they would be displayed until they're explicitly removed using the clear form notification method. Also, the height of the notification area would be limited so that each new message could then be added to the top. So again, both methods are interlinked to each other. So you could first set a notification with a specific level, such as error, warning, or information, and display that at the top of the form, and then clear the form notification based on certain parameters. Note that there are quite a few smaller methods that are being introduced underneath xrm.page.ui.control. Two specific ones that are interrelated to each other are the set notification and the clear notification. So we already discussed that notifications can be set at a form level. Now you can also set notifications at a control level, meaning that you would need to specify a reference to the name of the control, and then you could specify some text which would be applicable to the situation or to the condition that you're checking for. And so essentially, once you set it against the control, you could then explicitly clear it by referring to it. So this would help with data validation scenarios, since you can set the notifications right next to the control on demand and clear them. Specific to controls, again, we can further split out the changes based on the type of attribute that you're trying to perform some logic against. So specifically for numbers, now you can override the precision set by invoking the set precision method. Also specific to dates, now you can set two different methods that are the set is all day and the set show time. So basically, set is all day just specifies whether the date control on your form should set a value including the entire day. Similarly, the set show time would specify if the date control should show the time portion or not. And the return types for those are just Boolean. Specific to controls, three methods that are being introduced for lookup type of controls are the add custom filter, the pre-search type of events, such as the add pre-search and the remove pre-search. So let's talk about each of these briefly. So for the add custom filter, the idea is that now you can use fetch XML and you can add additional filters to the results that are being displayed in your lookup control. So each filter could then be combined with any previously added filters with an AND condition. For this type of method, you would basically need to specify the name of the control, which is a lookup, as well as the fetch XML that you want to input. And also you would have to specify the name of the entity. So this would be useful for situations where you're trying to add additional custom filters to your lookup controls. The reason why you may want to specify an entity name next to the add custom filter method is essentially because you may have certain lookup controls that are also of multi-entity type. So if you want to apply a filter specific to an entity, you may want to specify that explicitly. Otherwise, by default, your fetch XML would apply to all the entities it is applicable for the control. Two pre-search events that are being made available are the add pre-search and the remove pre-search. So what we mean by pre-search is that when you have a lookup control, the event that would occur right before the control launches a dialog to search for your records could be considered a pre-searching type of event. So as we know, the form editor does not provide a way in the interface to set event handlers for this type of event if you're trying to insert some business logic at that point. Using the add pre-search and the remove pre-search functions, you will now be able to apply changes to lookups based on values just as the user is about to view results for the lookup. And similarly, when you use the remove pre-search function, this would allow you to remove the event handler function that you may have previously set for the pre-searching event specific to the lookup control. Lastly, the method that you're seeing towards your extreme right under the xrm.utility object is the Open Web Resource Dialog method. So this type of method will allow you to open your HTML web resources as dialogues in CRM. So there are quite a few parameters that you can specify, but some important ones, of course, are the web resource name, because we can only open up the web resources of HTML type. And then also you would want to specify some options for the dialog so that we can figure out how you want to size the dialog window and if there's any data that you want to pass to the dialog. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few functions that are being introduced in CRM 2013. So as I discussed, now you can detect what type of client is executing the JavaScript. So we have three types of clients in CRM: the browser experience, the Outlook experience, and now the mobile clients, where JavaScript will also be running. You could essentially detect what type of client is open, and based off of that, you may want to execute different types of business logic. For example, on a mobile client, there may be some business logic that you may want to skip. So this can be returned by querying the context object, as we can see here. And then in order to set form notification, you would need to specify the method for set form notification with a particular error message or information message or a warning message. So the first parameter is just going to be your string that you're trying to set, and the second parameter is going to be what type of message do you intend to display. So in most cases, you may want to display some error that can surface at the top of the form. However, if there is a situation where you want to simply pop up a warning or an information, you could go ahead and set this attribute accordingly. Additionally, at a control level, you can set notifications now. So all you would need to do is specify the name of your control, which maps to essentially your attribute name. And then in front of it, you could set your notification, which could be any text string. An optional parameter would be to specify a unique ID for these notifications. And as you can see, I've simply registered my sample JavaScript in an onload fashion for the custom entity we're looking at. So what we can do is now close out of this experience or minimize this and navigate out to the main form for project needs. So as you can see, the JavaScript started firing and it's detecting the type of client that we have opened. So in this particular case, this is a web client. And now we could try to set a form notification at the top of the form, which would essentially look like this. And if you want, based off of some business logic, you could go ahead and start clearing it out as well. One other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and update my title for the project need. So let's call this financial project need, so that it matches the condition that I'm looking for to set a validation against the control. So let's go ahead and save this. And it prompts us with the type of client. And now it's setting a notification against the particular control. And it's also setting the form notification. And here's how the notification against the control would look like. So it would surface inline and would specifically tell you which control the error message is mapping to. Now let's go ahead and disable the sample JavaScript that we were running on our form. So we can just go into form properties, disable this particular function that we were accessing. One other thing I do want to quickly show you is on the onSave handler. Right now I have a prevent autosave function registered. So this is how you can in your organizations disable autosave functionality on a form specific basis. In situations where you're looking to have the autosave functionality system-wide, but you've identified specific scenarios where you want the autosave functionality to be turned off, you could implement some simple JavaScript. The way you do that is by passing the context as the first parameter into the function and retrieving the getSave mode. The getSave mode now has a new type, which basically maps to the autosave type of save. And so as soon as we see that the get save mode is 70, which represents autosave, then in that particular case, you could invoke the prevent default function, which would prevent the save in that particular case. So this is how you could go about preventing autosave for the default interval every 30 seconds, only for specific forms, while still leaving the autosave functionality enabled in the organization. This concludes our session on Client API Enhancements in CRM 2013.